I want to talk to you today about choosing what business form you're going to be in as a private practice. There are several business structures that you can choose to be in, but you want to find the one that's right for you. So you can be a sole proprietor right out the gate. Sole proprietor doesn't require much in terms of documentation. It's the easiest to form. It's just simply picking a name, hanging your hat up, and using your social as the identifier for your business. Now, it is the easiest to form because it has the least protections in place. As a sole proprietor, you can be considered as doing business as. It will be your name doing business as the name of the company. It is a pass-through entity, which means that whatever money the business makes, you're going to pay taxes on your personal income tax related to the money that the business makes. You and the business are exactly the same. The name could be different, but as a sole proprietor, you are that business. The minimal reporting requirements are usually associated with sole proprietorship. There isn't a lot of paperwork because you and the business are the same. So you're not going to pay any corporate business taxes as a sole proprietor. But it's important to note that you have the greatest liability as a sole proprietor because you and the business are one. If somebody sues the business, they're suing you. And whatever assets you have, they have the ability to access those assets in the lawsuit. And so, yes, it doesn't provide you the most protection, but it does provide you flexibility if right now you don't have the money to necessarily pay to incorporate. A sole proprietor is the easiest way to start, and you can later incorporate. But we would recommend that you probably talk to your lawyer and your tax accountant before you do that, and to see what the implications are, to weigh the pros and cons versus sole proprietorship versus incorporation. Along the lines of easy to start, low protection, but low amount of paperwork is also a partnership. Now, a partnership does require that you have a partnership agreement in place between you and the partners, deciding how you're going to divide up the income that the business makes, the expenses that the business has. So there is a little paperwork, a little bit more paperwork with the partnership than you would have with a sole proprietor. But again, you and all the partners incur any of the liabilities. So again, if the business is sued, they can come after your assets and all the assets of the partnership. And when it comes to paying taxes, the partners in that business are paying taxes on anything that the business, any money that the business makes, as well as you're responsible for all the liabilities, the bills that the business has. Again, it's easy to form, but there's low protection. The next one that you're going to find is a limited liability company or a limited liability partnership, an LLC or a PLLC. And the PLLC, the professional limited liability, is a PLLC, and the LLC is just a limited liability company. That one affords you a lot more protection. It begins to separate you and the business. With the limited liability companies, you are able to determine if you want to pay taxes as a business or you want to pay taxes as individuals. So as individuals, you would pay taxes based on whatever income distributions that the limited liability company makes to you as the shareholders, as the board members in that company. Now, if you decide to be a professional limited liability, that just attaches your licenses to the limited liability company. But in both cases, it affords you more protection than a sole proprietor or partnership. It's a little bit easier to form. There's a larger fee than, of course, to form that than it would be a sole proprietorship or a partnership, because you have to actually incorporate and you have to have incorporation papers. You would also require an agent with that. And so there are just a couple more steps and requirements of a limited liability company than you would have if you were a sole proprietor or partnership. But here is where you get the protection if you determine to have this type of formation business structure. Now, limited liability companies are recognized within the US. When you go outside the US, it's going to be different in terms of how they recognize the way the business is structured. But again, talk to your tax accountant or your lawyer when it comes to deciding what final business structure you're going to have, how the business is going to pay their taxes, how you're going to take salary from that business or distribution from that business. It's important that you speak to an accountant or a tax lawyer. But in terms of just figuring out which one is the best way to begin to do your research and to start, most private practices are limited liability companies or professional limited liability companies, because that affords the protection and it's an ease of start. And also your taxes are a little bit different than if you're a corporation. Now, the last two that I'm not going to talk as much about are corporations, where you can be a regular corporation, a C corporation, or an S corporation. Again, these provide you more protection. They tend to pay more taxes, and you have to pay your taxes more frequently depending on how you're set up. So a corporation may have to pay their taxes 4 times a year versus paying it once a year. But again, it depends on your structure, your fiscal year, and all that is outlined as you're forming the business. You're going to write that into your business policies, business agreements, and business formation documents. So that you're already going to determine. It costs more money to form as an S corporation or a C corporation. You can exist in forever as either one of those corporations. You can have a larger number of shareholders and partners when you're that type of corporation. And you can do more in terms of doing more outside of just private practice. And so again, if you choose to have that structure, you want to research how much it's going to cost to start an S corporation or C corporation in your state. You want to get with a good business accountant or a tax lawyer, and get with a lawyer in terms of how you're going to form it. Because once you pay the money to form that business, you don't want to have to go do that again. So thank you for joining me. My name is Gessy Martinez, helping you to start your private practice dream, believing that you have the ability. And I just can't wait to see you succeed and get out there and help those who are looking for a provider just like you, to help them deal with the stress, to help them deal with life in of itself. Thank you very much.